Life in the city had been loud, chaotic, and exhausting. A broken engagement had pushed her further into silence, leaving her uninspired and unsure of her future. So, when she inherited her grandmother's cottage overlooking the ocean, she decided to leave everything behind and seek solace in Haven. On her first evening, Clara wandered down to the beach. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. She sat on a driftwood log, breathing in the salty air. That's when she noticed a man a few yards away, sketching in a notebook. He glanced up, and their eyes met for a fleeting moment before she looked away. The next morning, while buying fresh bread at the bakery, Clara met him again. His name was Elias. He was a carpenter who built boats in a small workshop by the docks. His hands were calloused from years of work, but his eyes carried a quiet gentleness, as if he saw more of the world than most. Days turned into weeks, and Clara often found herself crossing paths with Elias. Sometimes at the market, sometimes along the cliffs, sometimes at a little cafe near the harbor. Their conversations began casually, about the weather, the sea, the town, but slowly it deepened. She learned that Elias had once dreamed of traveling the world, but after his father's passing, he stayed behind to take care of his family's workshop. One rainy afternoon, Clara visited the docks to see the boat Elias was restoring. The scent of cedar and varnish filled the air as he guided her through the half-finished vessel. She traced her fingers along the smooth wood, admiring the patience and care in every detail. "You put so much of yourself into this," she said softly. Elias smiled faintly. "It's all I know. Wood remembers the hands that shape it. Maybe when it sails again, it will carry a piece of me too." Something stirred in Clara. That night, she unpacked her brushes and paints for the first time in months. She painted the sea, the cliffs, and the boats, always with Elias somewhere hidden in the strokes, though she never admitted it. As autumn arrived, the air grew colder, but Clara's heart felt warmer than it had in years. She and Elias spent evenings walking beneath the whispering pines that lined the cliffside. The world outside Havenbrook faded away when they were together. One evening, as the sky turned violet, Elias stopped and looked at her. "Clara, I know you came here to heal, and I don't want to be another reason you feel tied down. But I need you to know, since you came back, this town feels alive again. I feel alive again." Clara's breath caught in her throat. She realized then that her heart, once fractured, had quietly been mending in the rhythm of his presence. She reached for his hand. "Elias, I thought I had lost myself, but with you, I've found more than I ever expected." The wind rustled the pines above them, carrying their silence like a promise. He kissed her then, slow and gentle, like the sea touching the shore. Months later, Clara held her first gallery showing in Havenbrook. Her paintings told a story of loss, renewal, and love. Among them was her favorite piece, a portrait of Elias, not posed, but captured in the way she saw him, steady, kind, and endlessly enduring. When the guests left and the night grew quiet, Elias wrapped his arms around her. "So," he whispered, "does this mean you're staying?" Clara smiled, her head against his chest. "Yes, I think I've finally found where I belong." And beneath the whispering pines, with the sea singing endlessly below, two hearts began a new chapter together. Drawn it with light, its windows glowing, its beacons strong. light of dusk, holding a weathered sketchbook. His smile was uncertain, as though afraid the ocean had erased him from her heart. "I built something," he said, holding out the sketch. It was of a house on the cliff, facing the sea, filled with light. "I thought maybe it could be ours." Tears blurred her vision. The sea roared behind them, and for the first time, Alina believed the ocean's whispers were not of loss, but of return. She stepped into his arms, and this time there was no goodbye, only the beginning of a story still being written, carried by the tides, endless as the waves. The promise beneath the stars. Alina had always been drawn to the quiet shores of Crescent Bay. Every summer, she returned to the little seaside town where her grandparents once lived. It wasn't just the waves or the salt in the air that called her back. It was the memory of someone she had met there long ago. When she was 16, she had met Daniel. He was the son of a local fisherman, a boy with sun-kissed skin, warm brown eyes, and a smile that carried both mischief and kindness. They had spent those summer days together, walking barefoot on the sand, talking about dreams, and watching the stars until dawn. One night, sitting on the pier, Daniel had whispered, "No matter where life takes us, promise me we'll find each other again under this sky." Alina, with her heart racing, had promised. But life, as it often does, pulled them apart. Years passed. Alina left for the city, chasing her career, while Daniel stayed behind, taking care of his father's boat. They wrote letters at first, but slowly silence grew between them. Alina buried herself in her work, convincing herself that first loves never lasted. Yet every time summer came, she couldn't resist returning to Crescent Bay. One particular summer evening, now 10 years later, Alina stood again on the old pier. The stars glittered above, the waves whispered below, and she felt the weight of that long-ago promise. She wondered if Daniel even remembered. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. A familiar voice spoke, gentle yet trembling with emotion. "You kept the promise." Alina turned, and there he was. Daniel looked older, his shoulders broader, his eyes touched by time, yet the warmth in them hadn't changed. For a moment, neither spoke. The world seemed to hold its breath. "I didn't know if you'd come back," he said softly. "I didn't know if you'd still be here," Alina replied. Her voice quivered, but her eyes held his without wavering. They laughed, the sound awkward at first, then melting into something natural, like no time had passed at all. They walked along the shore, their words spilling out in a rush, stories of years apart, of struggles and triumphs, of what they had lost and found. But beneath it all, there was something unspoken, something both of them had carried all along. As dawn began to paint the horizon, Daniel stopped and took Alina's hand. "I waited," he said simply. "Through everything, I waited for this for us." Tears welled in Alina's eyes. "And I kept coming back," she whispered, "because I couldn't let go." They stood there, holding each other, while the morning light embraced them. It wasn't the beginning of something new, nor merely the return of something old. It was the continuation of a promise, a love that had endured time, distance, and silence, only to find its way home beneath the stars of Crescent.